am Andrea Kauffman.
I'm Bruce Klauber.
And collectively, we are the authors of Let Me Be Frank, The Extraordinary Life and Music of Frank Sinatra Jr.
We're going to discuss a bunch of things, but let's start with the most obvious. I know I'm being asked, I know you are. Why did we write a book on Frank Sinatra Jr.?
Because you asked me. I think for me, the answer is I knew that he was an unsung hero to me. And I knew that nobody was going to sing his praises. No one was going to explain the kind of man he was. And no one was going to understand why he did some of the things he did. And after being with him for decades, I felt obligated.
This has been a 4-year journey.
For us, you mean?
For us, yes, to writing the book. And for me, and I'm not going to speak for you, but I've been there for 4 years with you. A tremendously emotional experience, Andrea. Tremendously emotional. I mean, this is not sit down with your pen and paper and your computer screen and knock out a book. There's tears, there's heartache. Why was this so emotional for you? And I know that it was.
We spoke every day, without fail, regardless of where he was or where I was, for over 30 years. We became the best of friends. He embraced my son, gave him a job, taught him just as much as college taught him in the music industry. And he was phenomenal. He created a family. He created a sense of belonging for his musicians, for me, and especially for him. They used to tease us, calling us Mama Bear and Papa Bear. It was a brother-sister relationship. There was nothing romantic about it. Let me make that very clear. But he created a family. It was a safe haven for everybody. He made us feel good about what we were doing, even though there were times we didn't feel good about the show. And he was such a lost soul sometimes that you just felt not obligated, but you wanted to lift him up. And I think the book is maybe my way of lifting him up.
You know, the word that is bandied about these days is closure. Was this closure in a way for you? Because there was no funeral.
There was no memorial. There was no funeral. The guys begged me to try to get that done, and it didn't get done. I thought it would be closure. I thought it would be the end of the deep sadness. But you know what? It really isn't, because he died, and they left it there. They being the Sinatra family. They just left it there. So I guess I'm going to feel closure when and if the book is successful, because then I'll know more people read it and they know more about him. And I guess I'll feel closure when somebody says, wow, now I understand why he was such a neat guy and so great to work with and so talented.
Well, in line with that, we did, I guess, over 40 interviews. Friends, family, musicians who've been with him 30 years, which is unprecedented, except maybe in the Ellington and Basie bands. Almost every interview that was done, and the tapes exist for verification, by the end of the interview, these people were in tears. There was a void that his passing left in their lives. And as I got into that part of it, my attraction originally was musical, which we'll go into. But I'm trying to figure out what was it about this man that left such a deep void upon his passing.
His impact on us, his impact on the music business, it was monumental. Look, he was Sinatra's son. He was the closest thing to Sinatra that there was ever going to be. But when Sinatra died, they had the big funeral, they showed all the pallbearers, they showed all the stars that showed up. When Frank died, he got put in a box, put in an airplane, taken home, put on his mother's piano, and then when his mother died, he was put in his sister's closet. Everybody lost him. They didn't mourn him. They didn't have the opportunity to. So when you made those calls, when you were doing the interviews, and I know you have mentioned how almost to a man everybody cried at the end of the interview. I know how they felt because they finally had a chance to talk about him.
Yeah.
So that's it. Why did you want to write the book?
Good question. I saw Frank Sinatra Sr. for the first time in person, July 1967, at Convention Hall in Philadelphia. Frank Sinatra, Buddy Rich and the orchestra, Pat Henry, the comedian, and Sergio Mendes in Brazil 66. My brother said, put on a coat and tie. We're going to see Frank Sinatra. I said, oh, the guy that makes the movies, right? He said, yeah, just put on the coat and tie. I knew Buddy Rich was there, and I had just started taking up the drums and was very interested in seeing this. Went to Convention Hall. We're up in the rafters, coat and ties. Buddy Rich is fabulous. Pat Henry's, let's face it, Pat Henry was corny, all right?
Even then?
Yeah, even then. Because I had grown up in a show business family, saw Shecky Green when I was 8 years old, so this was recycled. There's an intermission, then this man walks out in a tuxedo, unannounced. It was Frank Sinatra. Bolts of electricity went through me for reasons I still don't understand, and that feeling has not been duplicated. By the time he got to Old Man River, I'm crying, and I'm telling my brother, I said, he's singing to me, 14 years old, singing to me. My brother says he is singing to you.
In the nosebleed section, no less.
Sure. 2 weeks later, I read in the Daily News, Steel Pier, Atlantic City, Frank Sinatra Jr. I call up my buddy. I said, Frank Sinatra Jr. Frank Sinatra's got a son.
Oh, you never even realized?
No,
Yeah.
who sings. It's $2 to get in a cheaper Frank Sinatra. We drive down the music hall. He comes at packed house, 1967. People are very appreciative. He comes out. I remember the first number is Spice, which was his song.
Yeah, he wrote that.
Swinging gently, nicely. So we're waiting to hear the Sinatra songs. The payoff came an hour and 5 minutes down the line when he did an obscure Sinatra song, Don't You Go Away Mad. There was no payoff. Thank you and good night. I said, what the hell is going on here? I had to find out more about this guy. Why was this? Why didn't he want to sing his father's songs? That is one of the things that attracted me to this story. I mean, it would seem to me it would be the easiest thing in the world to do.
It would have been. But you're a musician, Bruce, and a drummer. As a musician and a writer, of course, did you see his worth later on without singing his father's songs?
Yes, but quite honestly, it took some work.
And if his name had been anything else, George Jones, would he have been as famous?
Andrea, we can't discount the curiosity value. That people would go to see him because he is Frank Sinatra's son.
That was the one and done, too.
Yeah. However, now this is from my standpoint, but also something that we've come to learn. I went back and back and back and back. You know, I used to call you, can you get me tickets? He had a fan base that followed him wherever he went.
Yeah, he did.
And that transcended the curiosity, novelty aspect. He had something to offer. From me, I was fascinated by where he was going musically. What were the first singles? Shadows on a
Foggy Day. I gave her a ring and she gave me the finger. Or you're the reason our kids are so ugly.
You know, he started with the reconstituted Dorsey Band, doing his father's old songs, and then he tried his hand at country. I was fascinated by the process of seeing what he would become. And this is a thread that goes throughout the book.
Do you know what he wanted to be?
No.
He told this to my son. He never said it to me personally. A movie score writer. That's what he went to college for. You know, you go to college for music, I just assume music. He wanted to be a movie score writer. And he really had great piano chops. He had a great sensibility when it came to music. And you know, did he miss his vocation? By the end of this podcast, by the end of the book, you'll know that he didn't, you know, that he did a phenomenal job with his dad's music.
He had to do this. I've come to learn he had to do it. Now, one of the threads that runs through the book is the struggle, the challenge of trying to get the man to sing some of his father's songs. Why? You were there, obviously, from the start when he was doing next to nothing. What was that struggle like? It was had to be impossible.
It wasn't even just my struggle. What I loved about our musicians was they weren't necessarily there for the buck. Because Lord knows, in the beginning, there wasn't a lot of money coming in. But they worked with him, struggled, fought with him. His best friends, Mike Smith and Terry Anthony, also musicians that worked with him for years and years, they tried to talk him into it. I tried to talk him into it. His production staff tried to talk him into it. You have people that had different personalities and they approached him very differently. Terry Woodson, our conductor, would never argue with him. Joe Picuri would not argue about his content, about his material. He was our sound engineer and eventually one of our production managers. But he would try to talk to him in a nice way. Me, it was, Jesus, Frank, what the hell are you singing?
Yeah.
What is this going to mean to the audience? It was a very emotional and hard struggle that used to tear me up all the time. I would never come home from a weekend of concerts and say to my husband, oh my God, he was great. He was great. He sang well. He put over every song, but none of them were Sinatra songs. So it was a 27-year struggle.
Now,
for all of us.
In other books, there are others who take the credit for his eventual singing his father's songs. I mean, was there a turning point?
There is no human being that is standing on this earth today, including Elliot H. Weissman, who should, could, or have the right to take any credit for him singing his father's music. When his father died, he started a show, he created a show called As I Remember It. He did an album.
Yep.
And that was about 1/3 his music and 2/3 his father's music. He got it. He got it. But he was still holding on to his own identity. But he got it. He saw how the audience applauded him. But if you went out there, Bruce, and you played the best drum solo you ever played in Sing, 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 or Take 5, which is that odd 5/4, you know, and somebody said, but can you do Black Magic? How would you feel?
Sure.
You know, in this case, he would do a great job, but they would still say, oh, I wish you had played whatever father's song they came up with. It was hard for him. But then, when his father would have been 100, he said, I want to do the Sinatra Centennial Celebration. That was dedicated purely to the Sinatra music. There was no Frank Jr. here. This is my dad. And you could see the whole big difference in him. His chest got bigger, and he was very sick at the time when he started this.
Yeah, yes.
So there's no one who can take the credit but him. There's no one who was more supportive than I was, and our family, our production staff, and our musicians. And that's all I can say about that.
Before we continue, let me tell those viewing this where they can get the book.
Yeah.
The book is available on Amazon.com, Indigo.com, BarnesandNoble.com. Our webpage is LetMeBeFrankBook.com. Gives you information about us, about where you can get the book, and we also have a Facebook page.
Let Me Be Frank, The Extraordinary Life and Music of Frank Sinatra Jr. will be in print October 15th. You can still pre-order it on all those places that Bruce...
All those platforms, yes.
Yeah, that you mentioned. And we hope you enjoy what we're doing here. Thanks for watching.
We have a lot more coming up.